Good evening, everybody, and I hope that your Thursday has gone well. And welcome to our little stream as we look at another passage from the Bible, or a very short phrase that maybe made the early listeners sit up. It is Thomas Cranmer's birthday today. I think he was born 1489. Those of you who have just tuned in at 5:30 exactly, Thomas Cranmer, born 1489. He's someone worth thinking about. But this evening we're thinking about Jeremiah. So this goes way back in history. And he was speaking to the people of Israel, roughly early 7th century BC, and through quite a long time frame there. This verse from Jeremiah chapter 6. This is what the Lord says. Stand at the crossroads and look. Ask for the ancient paths. Ask where the good way is and walk in it, and you will find rest for your souls. But you said, we will not walk in it. This little series is about Bible phrases that perhaps would have stopped the early listeners in their tracks. And perhaps there are a couple in that verse. One may have been stand at the crossroads. That's always such an evocative image. And quite often we will say, I felt I was at a real crossroads in my life. And it's one of those images that's lasted so well across and through cultures. Or it may be at the end, but you said, we will not walk in it. And what's going on there? Let's note that there are 5 quick commands in the opening. Stand at the crossroads and look, ask for the ancient paths, ask where the good way is and walk in it. You are to stand, they are to stand. This is not a moment to rush on. And you can only stand if you have stopped. And that sense of reaching a crossroads and decisions to be made and that the choices matter. Clearly Jeremiah felt that this choice had mattered. And sometimes we maybe rush into things and we don't quite stand and pause. And the second one is that we are to look, because in their pausing there should be consideration, a looking at what each route might mean as to the possible direction of each road. And then they are to ask for the ancient paths. This is not always a popular thing to do. Have we the humility to realize that the old ways can have as much wisdom as the new ways? And just because there was thinking of tens or hundreds of years ago, that doesn't mean it need all be swept aside just because it wasn't thought of today. The courage to look to the ancient paths and the lessons learned there. And then fourthly, they are to ask where the good way is. They are to be alert to what is right and wrong, what will see them safely home. They're not to ask what the easy way is. They're not to ask perhaps what the most selfish way is, but what is the good way. And lastly, they are to walk in it. Not enough just to study the map. This is a journey that they must go on. Stand at the crossroads and look. Ask for the ancient paths. Ask where the good way is and walk in it. And then a wonderful promise, and you will find rest for your souls. Lots in those 5 little commands and then that great promise to ponder. But we then have the rebuke. But you said, we will not walk in it. Why had they chosen the wrong path? Why, when standing at the crossroads, or maybe they hadn't stood, they just rushed on in a particular direction. Why had they gone the wrong way? What is it sometimes for us that leads us to choose the wrong path? There seems to be an intentionality here. It's not that they got it wrong by accident, but they said, we will not walk in it. And maybe they said verbally, or maybe they said in their actions and didn't actually spell it out, but somewhere they decided, we will not walk in the path that we should, the path that is the good way. The context, slightly wider in the chapter, is this. Just to say, after this verse, the next verse has the same theme. I appointed watchmen over you and said, listen to the sound of the trumpet. but you said, we will not listen. It's a classic device in Old Testament literature, is to repeat the theme by using a different image. So the first image is the crossroads. Which way are we going to choose? Are we thinking carefully? The second image is the trumpet. Are we prepared to listen to that clarion call, leading us in the right direction? But they said about the right path, we will not walk in it. They said about the trumpet, we will not listen. Just before these verses, there's a comment. Jeremiah, he does highlight quite a lot of the failings of the people of Israel, as well as bringing hope of restoration and so on. But one of the failings is a failing of leadership. And here he names or labels the prophets and the priests. They dressed the wound of my people as though it were not serious. Peace, peace, they say, when there is no peace. Are they ashamed of their detestable conduct? No, they have no shame at all. They do not even know how to blush. That's such a great line. They do not even know how to blush. Here is a people who seem to have lost any reference points for what behaviors are helpful and what are not, for what behaviors build up and what destroy, for what behaviors are right and honorable and pure and good, and which ones aren't. And the priest and the prophet seem to spend a lot of time saying, it's all okay, you haven't done anything wrong, there's no problem here, nobody's got hurt, and so on and so on. They dress the wound of my people as though it were not serious. Peace, peace, they say, when there is no peace. We are called to be honest with one another, with ourselves, and the situation that we see around us. And so Jeremiah feels he has to say this. This is what the Lord says, stand at the crossroads and look. Ask for the ancient paths. Ask where the good way is and walk in it, and you will find rest for your souls. Wonderful challenge, wonderful promise. Let's also heed the rebuke that he then felt he had to say. But you said, we will not walk in it. I wonder if in that circle of early listeners, some would have felt really encouraged by the promise, you will find rest for your souls. I wonder if some would have felt, here are 5 clear commands that I can follow as I look to the way ahead. And I wonder if there are some who inwardly realized they had said, no, I'm not going to follow that path. And I'm not going to listen to that trumpet. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Hope your Thursday has gone well. Blessings on the rest of the day. Tomorrow at 5:30, Celtic spirituality reflection with just a little touch, a few words about the whole theme of thirsting in the scriptures. Thank you again.